Beyond the investment in grid assets, we know that data is going to be at the core of addressing resiliency and reliability. Utilities are going to be able to enhance daily operations as well as inform future strategic investments across the organization.
It's a new year, a new administration's taking office. Do you have any early perspectives on changes potentially affecting the energy industry?
So it's a really interesting time with a new administration coming in, expected significant load growth on the horizon, and a number of significant weather events going back to 2024 with hurricanes, Milton and Helene and others, and now the wildfires in California. So there's a lot of variables in play that ultimately are going to shape the future of electric utilities. Over the past few years, we know there's been a push away from fossil fuels and significant investments in renewables, all with a hope to cut carbon emissions. However, as we move into 2025 and we look to the next few years, our expectation is we're going to see a larger focus on a balance between economic growth and those net zero emissions targets of the future. So from a generation perspective, we know there's increasing electricity demand. And so our expectation is that nuclear production is likely to see a pickup, and that's going to be in parallel to continued use of fossil fuels for generation. From an operational perspective, we expect to see continued investments in the grid, both to take advantage of new technologies as well as address aging infrastructure and supporting hardening and resiliency operations and initiatives. And then from a customer perspective, we'd like to think that those expectations are going to continue to rise for customers in this industry. And ultimately, that's going to require a number of different investments on the digital front to meet all of these changes that are coming in 2025.
Given the expected influence of policies on the generation mix, what do you expect to be the impact in the coming years?
Yeah, so the generation mix over the past decade has had a huge focus on carbon reduction. And in many jurisdictions, we've seen moves away from coal generation facilities, and even in certain cases, the transition to different fuel sources, ultimately trying to continue to meet electricity demand while also cutting our carbon emissions. As we move into 2025, that going green mentality is not necessarily going to fade completely, but again, there's going to be likely a lower focus on carbon neutrality. For this administration, we know affordable electricity is going to be a core component of driving economic growth in the immediate term. And that's going to come at the same time as that expected increase in electricity demand tied to overall electrification, data centers tied to the adoption of AI, among other reasons for that increase. So as a result of those trends, we do expect to see more focus on nuclear generation over the next 4 years. And that could take the form of increasing generation at existing nuclear facilities, transition of existing facilities, or through advances in small modular reactor technologies and other nuclear transition opportunities. So nuclear represents a clean generation source with no carbon emissions, and it's extremely reliable. So definitely going to be a big piece of the puzzle as we look to the future. At the same time, if we continue to use fossil fuels for generation, carbon capture investments may pick up, and concerns associated with that emissions from those facilities can be addressed through those types of investments. And then lastly, domestic fuel production is likely to increase with the new administration. Again, that's going to serve to continue the use of fossil fuel generations in the years to come.
Reliable power is top of mind for many customers, given the recent extreme weather events you mentioned. What technological advancements are essential for enhancing grid resiliency and reliability in the face of an aging infrastructure and the future environmental threats?
Yeah, it's a good question. So beyond the investment in grid assets, we know that data is going to be at the core of addressing resiliency and reliability. I mentioned the active hurricane season and other events that have taken place in the last few years, and we're no doubt going to continue to see electric utilities making significant investments in grid assets. Many of those investments are going to drive higher reliability by proactively replacing aging infrastructure, but those investments can also support newer technologies on the grid and more data that will ultimately help to drive decision making. IoT, big data have been around for years, Now AI is really being adopted to provide new ways to optimize the use of that data that's being collected. So utilities are going to need to find a way to extract value from all the billions of data points that they're collecting on a daily basis. And that starts with the right data programs, architecture, and making sure they have flexible platforms to drive those actionable insights.
On that point, given there are billions of data points available now, what are the early opportunities and where should utilities focus?
So there's a ton of opportunity here in a lot of different areas where investments and initiatives could be focused, especially in 2025 and beyond. But the immediate opportunities that we see at UDig are really in the forecasting and modeling, specifically for operations within the multitude of business units of an electric utility. We see that as a key point of entry for use of AI and cloud services as well. So, through investment of modular data products and solutions, utilities are going to be able to enhance daily operations as well as inform future strategic investments across the organization. That's going to carry with it improved resiliency and reliability for the future. So if we want to address those current environmental threats and aging infrastructure, we've got to have a forward-looking approach to maximizing the value that we can achieve from the data that's being collected today.
Given the industry we're in consulting, our primary focus is the end user or the customer at the end of the day. So with all the change across generation in the grid, how do you expect customer expectations to evolve?
Yeah, customer expectations are going to continue to evolve quickly. We know that has been the case over the last few years, and especially as the grid has become more decentralized. We do think that utilities can look across the industry aisles for experiences that they may reference as the engagement opportunities with their customers increase. Amazon's a prime example for ease of use in daily interactions. And those types of experiences are ones that customers are seeking as they start to adopt new assets and technologies, whether that be an electric vehicle or generation and storage on site. And that's got to run in parallel to affordability. So electric utilities are going to need to continue offering innovative programs and services around energy efficiency initiatives, demand response strategies, and ultimately creating rate structures that are going to help meet those demands. As those programs come online and they're made available to customers, the customers are going to expect platforms and applications that they interact with to be modern and intuitive. And furthermore, personalized services that's going to become table stakes. And that's part of the standard in ensuring those offerings are aligning with their goals. So with all that discussion, we've covered a lot of ground as far as what we can expect to possibly change or even stay the same as we go into 2025 and beyond. I've mentioned AI solutions, data strategies, and advanced analytics, as well as custom development and modernization opportunities for electric utilities. If those are different areas of focus for you as you look to your strategic roadmap in 2025, please reach out. We'd love to have a conversation and look forward to our next touch point.